DNA ancestry test, shocking secret revealed, dead not biological father, mom lied 30 years. Hello everyone. Before we start today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's simple, free, and allows us to keep bringing you great content. Your support means everything to us. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thank you very much. Now let's begin the video. Okay Reddit, buckle up because this is a wild one. Never imagined I would be posting on anything like our relationship advice or maybe our family, but here we are. My name is Sarah. I am 32 years old, and until about a week ago, I thought I had a pretty normal family life. My parents, Karen and David, are in their late 50s. They have been married forever, or at least as long as I have been alive. My younger sister, Emily, is 28 and getting married next year, which was supposed to be a big happy family event. Supposed to be, so here is the thing. A few months ago, like everyone else, I got sucked into the DNA ancestry craze. You know, those kits where you spit in a tube and send it off, and then they tell you where your ancestors came from. Seemed like a fun way to learn a bit more about my background. I always thought I was just boringly British and Irish. You know, standard stuff. My dad always joked about being secretly descended from Vikings, which was hilarious because he is the least Viking-like person you could ever meet. He is a mild-mannered accountant, for goodness sake. Anyway, I ordered a kit online, did the spit thing, sent it in, and honestly forgot all about it. Life is busy, you know. Work, friends, trying to keep my plants alive, the usual millennial struggles. Then, last week, I got an email saying my results were ready. I logged in, half expecting to see I was 100% boring European mutt. What I saw was, well, it was not that. The ethnicity estimate was actually pretty much what I expected, mostly British and Irish, with a sprinkle of German, which was cool. But then I started digging deeper into the site because they have all these extra features, right? You can find genetic relatives, people who share DNA with you. I thought that would be kind of neat, maybe find a distant cousin or something. I clicked on the genetic relatives section and started scrolling. A bunch of third and fourth cousins, all people I did not recognize, which was not surprising. Then, I saw a name that made me do a double take. It was someone listed as a close relative, like first or second cousin level. The name was Mark Jensen. Now, Jensen is not exactly an uncommon name, but it rang a bell. I vaguely knew a Jensen family when I was growing up, friends of my parents maybe. I clicked on the profile to see more details. And that is when things got weird, really weird. Like life-altering weird. The profile said this Mark Jensen was predicted to be my father, my paternal father, not just a close relative but my actual dad. I stared at the screen. I blinked. I refreshed the page. Nope, still there. Mark Jensen, paternal father. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. My heart started pounding. My hands were shaking. There had to be a mistake, right? These DNA tests are not always perfect, are they? Maybe there was some kind of error in the system. But the more I looked at the results, the more details I saw, the more convinced I became that this was not a mistake. The DNA match was strong, like really strong. Strong enough to say, without a shadow of a doubt, that David, the man who raised me, the man I call Dad, is not my biological father. I sat there in stunned silence for what felt like hours, but was probably only about 30 minutes. My mind was racing. How could this be possible? My parents have been together forever. I have never had any reason to doubt that David was my dad. He looks like me, kind of. We have the same goofy sense of humor. He taught me to ride a bike, walked me down the aisle at my first school play, helped me with my math homework, everything a dad does. The more I thought about it, the more confused and frankly angry I became. Someone had some explaining to do, and that someone was definitely my mother, Karen. My dad, David, is the most honest, straightforward person in the world. He would never keep something like this from me. My mom, on the other hand, well, she is more complicated. She can be secretive sometimes, a bit dramatic. Not that I ever thought she was capable of something like this. But who knows what people are capable of, right? I decided I needed to confront her, but I wanted to do it calmly, rationally. I did not want to just burst in and scream, "You are not my real dad," at David. That would be cruel and unfair, especially if there was some other explanation. I needed to talk to my mom first, get her side of the story, if there was a story to tell. I called my mom and asked if I could come over. I said I needed to talk to her about something important. She sounded a bit concerned but agreed. I drove over to their house, my stomach churning with nerves. When I got there, my mom was in the kitchen making tea. My dad was in the living room, reading the newspaper. Everything seemed normal, too normal. It was like stepping into some kind of bizarre alternate reality where everything looked the same on the surface, but underneath, the foundations were crumbling. I followed my mom into the kitchen. She poured me a cup of tea and asked what was up. I took a deep breath and just blurted it out. "Mom," I said, "I did a DNA test." She looked at me a little confused. "Oh, that is nice, dear. What did you find out?" I held up my phone, showing her the DNA results, pointing to the section that said Mark Jensen, paternal father. "Mom," I said, "this test says that David is not my biological father." There was a moment of complete silence. My mom's face went white. She put down her teacup with a clatter. "What are you talking about?" she said, her voice trembling slightly. "That is impossible." "Mom," I said, "it is right here in black and white. The DNA does not lie." "I know this is probably a shock, but I need you to be honest with me. Is there something you have not told me?" She looked at me, her eyes wide and panicked. No, there is nothing," she stammered. "This test must be wrong. It has to be a mistake." "Mom," I said, "please just be honest. Have you ever heard of a man named Mark Jensen?" The name seemed to hit her like a physical blow. She recoiled slightly, her eyes darting around the kitchen as if looking for an escape route. "Mark Jensen," she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. "No, I do not think so. Why are you asking?" "Mom," I said, "please stop lying to me. This DNA test says he is my father. And if that is true, then you have been keeping a huge secret from me, from Dad, from everyone for over 30 years. I deserve to know the truth." Tears started welling up in her eyes. She sank down into a kitchen chair, her face buried in her hands. "Oh, Sarah," she sobbed. "Oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening." I sat down next to her, putting my hand on her arm. "Mom," I said gently, "it is okay. It is okay to tell me. Whatever it is, I just need to know the truth, please." She took a deep, shuddering breath and looked up at me, her face streaked with tears. "It is true," she whispered. "David is not your biological father. Mark Jensen is." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I felt a strange mix of emotions. Shock, disbelief, anger, betrayal, but also, strangely, a kind of grim understanding. Suddenly, so many things made a little more sense, things I had never consciously questioned before. Little comments my mom had made over the years, certain silences, a kind of distance I had sometimes sensed between my parents but never understood. I waited, letting her gather herself. "Mom," I said, "tell me everything. From the beginning." She took another deep breath and began to talk. It was a story I never expected to hear, a story that shattered everything I thought I knew about my family. It turned out that back when she was in college, before she met my dad, she had dated a man named Mark Jensen. It was a serious relationship, she said, her first real love. But it was also tumultuous, passionate, and ultimately unsustainable. They broke up after about a year and she was heartbroken. Then, a few months later, she found out she was pregnant, with Mark's baby. She was terrified, alone, and did not know what to do. She had lost touch with Mark after the breakup, and she was too ashamed and scared to reach out to him. She thought about telling her parents, but she was afraid of their reaction. In those days, being pregnant out of wedlock was still a huge scandal, especially in her family. Then, she met David. He was kind, stable, and supportive. He knew she was going through a difficult time, although she did not tell him the full truth about the pregnancy. She just said she was struggling with a past relationship. David was understanding and patient. He was everything Mark was not. He offered her security and stability, exactly what she felt she needed at that moment. And then she made a decision that would change all our lives forever. She decided to marry David and pretend that he was the father of her baby. She never told him the truth about Mark. She never told anyone. She buried the secret deep inside her, hoping it would never come to light. And for 32 years it had worked. She had built a life with David, a life based on a lie, but a life that, from the outside, looked perfectly normal, even happy. They had raised me, and then Emily together. They had celebrated birthdays, holidays, anniversaries. They had gone through all the ups and downs of family life, all while this massive secret was simmering beneath the surface. I listened to her story in stunned silence, my mind reeling. It was like watching a movie, except this was my life, my family. My mom, the woman I thought I knew, was a stranger to me. My dad, the man who had raised me, was not my biological father. And somewhere out there, there was another man, Mark Jensen, my biological father, someone I had never met, never even knew existed until a few days ago. When my mom finished her story, the silence in the kitchen was deafening. I did not know what to say. I felt numb, disoriented, like I had been dropped into a foreign country without a map or a compass. Finally, I managed to speak. "Mom," I said, why did you do this? Why did you keep this secret for so long?" She looked at me, her eyes pleading. "I was scared, Sarah," she said. "I was young and foolish and I made a mistake." And then, as the years went by, it just became harder and harder to tell the truth. I kept thinking tomorrow, I will tell him tomorrow. But tomorrow never came. And then you were born and I loved you so much and I could not bear to lose you or David. I thought I was protecting everyone. I thought I was doing the right thing, protecting everyone. I repeated, my voice rising. "Mom, you have lied to everyone for 30 years. You have built our entire family on a lie. How is that protecting anyone?" I know, she sobbed. I messed up big time. "I am so sorry, Sarah. Please, can you ever forgive me?" Forgive her. I did not know. I was too angry, too hurt, too confused to even think about forgiveness. I stood up, feeling like I could not breathe in that kitchen anymore. "I need to go," I said. "I cannot deal with this right now." I walked out of the kitchen, past my dad who was still in the living room, oblivious to the earthquake that had just struck our family. I did not say anything to him. I just walked out the door and drove home, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. The next few days were a blur. I barely slept. I could not eat. I just kept replaying my mom's confession in my head, trying to make sense of it all. I felt like my whole life had been a lie. Everything I thought I knew about my family, about myself, was suddenly thrown into question. I knew I had to tell my dad. He deserved to know the truth, but I was terrified of his reaction. He is such a gentle, kind man. How would he react to this bombshell? Would he be angry, hurt? Would he leave my mom? Would our family completely fall apart? Finally, after 3 days of agonizing, I decided I had to do it. I called my dad and asked if we could meet for lunch. I said there was something important I needed to tell him. He agreed, sounding a little concerned. We met at a small cafe near his office. He could tell something was wrong as soon as he saw me. I looked like I had not slept in days, which I had not. "Sarah, what is it?" he asked, his voice full of concern. "You look terrible." "Dad," I said, taking a deep breath, "there is something I need to tell you. It is about my DNA test." "My DNA test," he said, looking confused. "What about it?" "Did you find out you are secretly a Viking princess after all?" He tried to make a joke, but his smile faded as he saw my face. "Dad," I said, it turns out you are not my biological father." The words hung in the air between us. My dad stared at me, his face blank with shock. "What?" he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "What are you saying?" I explained everything. About the DNA test, about Mark Jensen, about my conversation with my mom, about the secret she had kept for 30 years. I told him everything, holding nothing back. He listened in silence, his face growing paler and paler. When I finished, he just sat there, staring into space, his eyes glazed over with disbelief. It was like he had been turned to stone. "Dad," I said gently, reaching out to touch his hand, "are you okay?" He blinked as if coming out of a trance. "No, Sarah," he said, his voice hoarse. "No, I'm not okay. How can I be okay? 30 years," he repeated, shaking his head. 30 years. She has lied to me for 30 years. Tears welled up in his eyes and he turned away, trying to hide his face. It was the first time I had ever seen my dad cry. It broke my heart. "Dad," I said, "I am so sorry. I know this is awful." He took a deep breath, wiping his eyes with the back of his hand. "It is not your fault, Sarah," he said, his voice trembling. "It is not your fault at all. But I do not understand. Why would she do this? Why would she keep this from me?" I told him what my mom had said, about being young and scared, about meeting him and wanting a stable life. I tried to explain it to make him understand, but I could see that he was still reeling from the shock. He sat there for a long time, lost in his thoughts. Finally, he looked at me, his eyes full of pain and confusion. "What do I do now, Sarah?" he asked. "What do I do?" I did not have an answer. I did not know what he should do. I just knew that our family, as we knew it, was broken. I hugged him tightly, and we sat there in silence for a while, two broken people trying to make sense of a shattered reality. That was a week ago. Since then, things have been complicated, to say the least. My dad moved out of the house. He is staying at a hotel right now, trying to figure things out. He is talking to a lawyer, apparently. I do not know what that means, but it does not sound good. My mom is a mess. She is constantly calling me, crying, begging me to talk to my dad, to convince him to come home. I have tried to talk to her, to reason with her, but it is hard. I'm still so angry at her for keeping this secret for so long. I understand she was scared, but 30 years. That is a lifetime of lies. My sister Emily is also in shock. She's getting married next year, and all the wedding planning has come to a screeching halt. She is furious at my mom and hurt for my dad. She keeps asking me questions I cannot answer. What does this mean for our family? Will mom and dad get divorced? Will Christmas be canceled? Okay, she did not actually ask about Christmas, but you get the idea. As for me, I am still trying to process everything. I feel like I am living in some kind of soap opera. One minute I am just Sarah, a normal person with a normal family, and the next minute I find out my dad is not my dad, my mom is a liar, and my whole life is based on a secret. It is a lot to take in. I have not even thought about Mark Jensen yet, my biological father. He is still just a name on a DNA report to me. I do not know if I want to meet him or even contact him. What would I say? Hi, I am your daughter, surprise. My mom never told you about me or my existence for 32 years. Awkward much? I know this community always gives honest feedback, so let me have it. Am I being too harsh on my mom? Should I try to convince my dad to forgive her? Should I reach out to Mark Jensen? I am completely lost here. Help me out, Reddit, update 1. Wow, my phone has been blowing up with notifications since I posted this. Did not expect so many people to respond so quickly. Reading through all your comments now, and honestly, I am a bit overwhelmed. Thank you to everyone who has offered advice and support. It means more than you know right now. A lot of you are saying I am an TA, not the asshole for being angry at my mom, and that she was completely wrong to keep this secret for so long. That is kind of validating, to be honest. I was starting to feel like maybe I was overreacting, but it seems like most of you agree that this is a pretty big deal. Some of you are even saying I should cut my mom off completely, which seems a bit extreme, but I understand the sentiment. Some of you are asking about my dad and how he is doing. I talked to him again yesterday. He is still very upset, but he seems a little calmer than he was at first. He is staying with his brother for now, which is good. He needs some space. He said he appreciates my support and that he does not blame me for any of this, which is a relief. He is still talking about lawyers and divorce, but he also said he is willing to consider counseling, maybe try to work things out with my mom. So, there is a tiny glimmer of hope there, maybe. A few people suggested I should reach out to Mark Jensen, my biological father. Honestly, that idea terrifies me. It feels like opening another can of worms. But some of you are saying it could be a good thing, that he has a right to know about me, and I have a right to know him. I have looked at his profile on the DNA website again. It does not say much, just his name and that he lives in the same state as me. No picture or anything. I guess I could try to contact him through the website, send him a message. But what do I even say? Hi, long-lost dad, fancy meeting you after 32 years. It sounds like something out of a bad movie. A few of you asked if my mom is remorseful. Yes, she definitely seems to be. She is constantly apologizing, crying, saying she regrets everything. But is it genuine remorse or just regret at getting caught? I do not know. It is hard to tell. I want to believe her, but it is hard to trust her after all this. She has agreed to go to therapy, both individual and couples counseling with my dad if he is willing. So, she is at least trying to make amends, I guess. My sister Emily is still furious. She refuses to talk to my mom right now. She is worried about her wedding and how this will affect everything. She is also worried about my dad being alone and upset. She is being very protective of him, which is understandable. She has always been a daddy's girl. Okay, Reddit, keep the advice coming. I am reading everything and trying to take it all in. I think I will try to send a message to Mark Jensen through the DNA website. Just a simple message, saying I think we might be related and would like to connect. Baby steps, right? We'll update again when I have more news. Thanks again for all your support. You guys are amazing. Update 2. Okay, Reddit, another update, and things are, well, still complicated, but maybe moving in a slightly more positive direction. Maybe, fingers crossed. So following some of your advice, I decided to reach out to Mark Jensen, my biological father. I sent him a message through the DNA website. It was short and sweet, just said something like, "Hi Mark, my name is Sarah, and my DNA results suggest we might be related as father and daughter. If you are open to connecting, please let me know." I honestly did not expect to hear back from him. I thought he might think it was some kind of scam or mistake, or just ignore it. But to my surprise, he replied the very next day. His message was also short and sweet. It said something like, "Sarah, I received your message and I am definitely interested in learning more. Please feel free to call me at this number," and he included his phone number. I stared at the number for a long time. Should I call? Was I ready for this? I was nervous, like really nervous. But I also felt this pull, this curiosity, this need to know. So I took a deep breath and dialed the number. He answered on the third ring. His voice was normal. I do not know what I was expecting, maybe some booming voice of destiny, but it was just a regular guy's voice. "Hi, this is Mark," he said. "Hi Mark, this is Sarah," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I'm the one who sent you the message through the DNA website." "Oh, Sarah, yes, hello," he said. "It is, well, this is quite a surprise. We talked for about 30 minutes that first call." It was mostly awkward small talk, trying to feel each other out. He asked me about myself, my job, my hobbies. I asked him about his life, what he did, if he had any other children. He told me he is a software engineer, he is divorced, and he has no other children. He said he always wanted to have a family, but it just never happened. He seemed genuinely surprised and a little overwhelmed by the news that he had a daughter he never knew about. But he was also very open and welcoming. He said he would love to meet me in person if I was comfortable with that. I said yes. We arranged to meet for coffee a few days later. Leading up to the meeting, I was a nervous wreck. What if we did not click? What if he was weird? What if this whole thing was a huge mistake? But when I finally met him, it was surprisingly okay. He was not some scary stranger. He was just a normal guy, a bit older than me, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. We talked for hours that first meeting. About everything and nothing. About our lives, our interests, our families. He told me more about his relationship with my mom back in college. He said he was heartbroken when they broke up, and he had always wondered what happened to her. He had no idea she was pregnant or that I existed. Since that first meeting, I have met Mark a few more times. We are still getting to know each other, obviously. It is all very new and strange, but it is also kind of nice. He is a good person. He is interested in getting to know me. He is not trying to replace my dad or cause any more drama. He is just there, as another person in my life. A person who happens to be my biological father. As for my parents, things are still tense. My dad is still staying with his brother. He is still talking to lawyers. But he has also agreed to go to couples counseling with my mom. That is a small step, but it is a step in the right direction. My mom is still a mess, but she is also trying to be better. She is going to individual therapy as well. She knows she messed up big time, and she is trying to take responsibility for her actions. Emily is still not talking to my mom much, but she is slowly starting to thaw a little. She met Mark with me last week. It was a bit awkward, but it went okay. She is still processing everything too. So where does this leave me? Well, my family is still broken in many ways. It will take a long time to heal, if we ever fully do. But maybe, just maybe, there is a path forward. Maybe my parents can find a way to forgive each other and rebuild their marriage. Maybe I can build a relationship with Mark, my biological father, without it destroying my relationship with David, the dad who raised me and who I will always love as my father. What have I learned from all this? Well, secrets are toxic. Lies, even well-intentioned ones, can cause immense damage. Honesty and open communication are crucial in any relationship, especially within a family. And sometimes, life throws you curveballs that you never expect. You just have to try to roll with the punches and find the good in the unexpected, even in the midst of chaos and heartbreak. Thanks again, Reddit, for listening and for all your advice. It has helped more than you know. I will keep you updated if anything major changes. For now, I am just taking things one day at a time, trying to navigate this new, strange, and slightly less broken version of my family. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.